So I can't believe I'm getting ready to talk about this. Shouts to, who was the person that asked me to do this? Someone, shouts to whoever you are. I'm sorry, I don't remember your name right now. In the comment section of either yesterday or the video previously, where you asked me, would I cover the Blake Lively stuff from a Christian perspective? And I just thought, I'm not. But then somehow, I don't know. I think my iPad is alive, because that joint just popped up, I guess, on my feed, and some Blake Lively, that it ends with us, right? Drama. And so I started looking into it, and I thought, wow, this is a crazy story. And then I just felt like, as a believer, listen, as a believer, right, as a Christian, I believe in what's a term called God is sovereign, which means I believe God's in control of everything. So I don't think that just because you're not a Christian doesn't mean that God doesn't allow the principles in his word to come back and affect those who are in the world. Everyone is created by him. So everyone's under his jurisdiction, whether you believe in him or not. So I always try to find, not necessarily one-to-one narratives in the Bible to what's happening and stuff, even in Hollywood, but I always try to find things that make me be like, wow, Lord, this is just typical. This is happening. All right, so, excuse me, something's on my tongue. So someone asked me to talk about this Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni, it ends with us fiasco, this lawsuit. So I was like, that's not the kind of stuff I do. But I thought, I like to have fun. I like the challenge of getting involved and thinking about these cultural phenomenons, right? So this morning, this stuff, just something popped on my YouTube feed. I started watching it. Then I watched another video, and I thought, this is interesting. And so I said, you know what? Let's just do a quick video about this. And I'm going to give a perspective from the Bible that I think is just the way that the Lord works. This is how the Lord works. All right. So in case you don't know, all right, so It Ends With Us is a movie that came out last August, and it was supposed to be about, well, I didn't watch the movie, but it's about basically domestic violence in a relationship. It's supposed to be a very serious movie, which, shouts to Justin Baldoni, who bought the rights to the book from the author who wrote the book. It was a very popular book. And shouts to him for getting the rights to the movie and then wanting to direct and star in the movie, because if I'm not mistaken, domestic violence is, like, in this day and age, coming off of the Me Too movement and all of that, like, you could be hated. Listen, we understand that Hollywood people are acting, but the whole point of acting is good actors bring us in. Like, we believe that that's who you really are. We believe that's how you really are. Some actors get called, what's called typecast, where you played a particular role so well that movie studios can't hire you because they always see you as that role. So like a guy like Alfonso Ribeiro, which you all would know as Carlton from The Fresh Prince, he just couldn't get any, because you just couldn't take him seriously, because every time you saw him as Carlton. Just, it's not unusual, just acting like a dork. So he just got typecast, right? So we believe, when you're a good actor, we believe that you are representing reality, even if we know that it's not reality, right? So Justin Baldoni, man, shouts to him for getting the rights to the book, It Ends With Us, which is a domestic violence book and movie of which he plays the male who essentially does the domestic violence. He could have been blackballed because people just believe that this is who you are, what you do, right? So he gets the rights to this movie, and then eventually in 2022, in sometime spring 2023, Blake Lively, superstar actress, beautiful woman, married to Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool, all that stuff, right? She signs on to be the lead girl whose name is Lily Bloom. She owns a floral shop in the book. And she meets this guy, and the relationship seems good, and then it becomes tumultuous. And the movie develops that. Well, shortly afterwards, we started hearing rumblings. Now, at first, like, who cares? Who cares what's happening? But then you start hearing all this stuff about, all this foul play, like, and all these lawsuits start coming out. And it's like, what in the world is going on? Like, and then you hear the first stuff I heard was that Blake Lively was suing Justin Baldoni for like basically harassment and all these other things. And then he countered with a $250 million lawsuit against the New York Times because they took her story and printed it, and he got dropped from his entertainment company, and then her husband Ryan Reynolds got involved, and then he ended up countersuing for $400 million of Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, and back and forth. You kept hearing all these stories over this movie that was like has a $25 million budget. The movie ended up doing over $300 million. So shouts to whoever got paid for that joint, right? You're talking about a 10 times the amount of what it costs to make the movie it made in the box office, which is very successful. But I thought it was interesting. So I didn't really care about this story because I just don't care about this stuff. And honestly, the stuff with Hollywood, it's its own world, right? But as I started to look into it, I thought it was really interesting. Now, there are other people who have covered this story way more and better than I'm going to cover it. I'm going to offer a biblical perspective to this. Some of it is just obvious, right? Some of it is just obvious. You could say, like, so basically when Justin Baldoni filed his counter lawsuit for $400 million, he had a ton of receipts. He had text messages, emails, a ton of stuff to prove that Blake Lively was essentially lying. And since then, she has been getting drugged through the mud, right? I'm talking about she has been getting drugged through it, especially by people like Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly, I think because this is what I honestly believe. I don't know this to be true. I think because Megyn Kelly is a conservative and Hollywood represents the liberal elites, she hates people who are, unless you are a confessed conservative. Our world is so political that they will go after everyone who's on the other political side of the aisle, right? It's not like only people on one political side take advantage of people. People who are rich always take advantage of people who are not. Or in this case, people who are famous and popular. If your platform is bigger, then you typically can take advantage of other people and their platforms. And Justin Baldoni, no one had ever heard of this dude. Blake Lively's a star, and her husband is a megastar, right? Ryan Reynolds, right? So all this stuff comes out and it goes back and forth, and it's crazy. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to watch a little bit of someone else's video who covered it well, and then I want to show you a brief video that Blake Lively basically why she actually lied, and she lied on herself, and it came out. And then I want to give you a brief biblical perspective just on all of this. All right, so here's the video we're going to watch that describes this fiasco. All right, and this guy did a good job putting it together. Shouts to him, and let's watch a little bit of this. What he says here.
Blake Lively may have a history of not being upfront when she gets cast in a movie of her secret desires to actually play a much bigger role than that of lead actress.
For Hollywood insiders, this was the moment Blake's carefully curated image started to crack. What happened to Baldoni wasn't some innocent oversight. It was a calculated power move. And as more details emerge, it's becoming impossible to ignore just how far Blake Lively was willing to go to make sure this was her film, no matter who got crushed in the process.
You know, these are weak, feckless people out in Hollywood. They have no spine. So, of course, they all unfollowed him and chose Team Blake, including, by the way, Colleen Hoover, the one who really owed him a debt of gratitude because he bought the rights to her book.
Megyn Kelly has never been one to sugarcoat the truth. And when she obliterated Blake Lively's carefully curated image, it was nothing short of a Hollywood earthquake.
Let me just say this real quick. No disrespect to Megyn Kelly, but Megyn Kelly doesn't mind exposing her truth. You know, if this is, let me just say this really quickly. This is what I mean about the culture that we live in. And shouts to all the believers who are watching this. This is the thing you gotta be careful of. We live in a culture where people say they're exposing the truth, right? They will take verses like I put up all the time, take no part in the unfruitful work, but instead expose them. But the reality is they only expose the political side they disagree with. Megyn Kelly does not expose, from my limited observation, the conservative side of it, right? So it's like these people don't expose truth, they expose the lies of the people that they disagree with politically. Megyn Kelly's no different. If you are genuinely exposing lies and you're trying to, talk, you're about truth, then you don't care who's lying and what's truth. Where truth is, you're going to reveal it. And these people don't do that. So I get that what he's saying. I don't know but I just think, I don't buy that. Megyn Kelly, everyone exposes the truth of the lies of their political opposition. But anyway, I digress. Let's keep going a little bit more and see what he says here.
In February 2025, during an explosive segment on The Megyn Kelly Show, she didn't just call out Blake's downfall. She made it crystal clear that this wasn't some media witch hunt. It was karma cashing in, years overdue.
I revealed something about a person. Celebrities are often put on pedestals, and if someone tries to tear that down, there's a lot of power and money behind these people.
For years, the 2016 press junket for Cafe Society had been buried. Nobody talked about it, nobody mentioned it. But in February 2025, the footage found its way online, and within hours, it spread like wildfire.
Here it is.
First of all, congrats on your little bump.
Congrats on your little bump.
What about my bump?
You've got two nice ones.
And they are kind of bumps, aren't they?
No, not bumps. The lovely lady lumps. Check it out.
It started like any other interview. Kirsty, a Swedish journalist, was doing her job, asking polite, standard questions, even congratulating Blake on her pregnancy. Nothing out of the ordinary, but Blake's reaction? Downright nasty.
Did you guys love wearing those kind of clothes that you...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And working in
Everyone
digital.
wants to talk about the clothes, but I wonder if they would ask the men about the clothes.
All right, so this is the stuff that, what I think when we watch these types of things, this is let me tell you one thing I think the Lord is doing. Because we idolize people based on talents that the Lord gave them, right? So if you can sing, if you're beautiful or handsome, whatever, if you're an athlete, if you're an actor, if you can entertain us in some way, right? We just give these people, or if you have money, we give people an unnecessary authority, right? An unnecessary allegiance and worship, right? I mean, you got fan clubs all across the nation of people, regular people, who start fan clubs about celebrities. So I think the Lord, especially for the church, I think he allows us to see these things so we can realize, hey, these people whom you want to be like, they don't have the character that you say you're after when you say you're a believer. So I think on one level, the Lord is always exposing this stuff. And I enjoy it, not to see people's downfall, but just so that reality sets in. At the end of the day, your favorite entertainer has to put their pants on one leg at a time. They have to eat or they'll die. They have to do all the things that you and I have to do. They just have the influence, the power, and the prestige and the money that we don't. And for whatever reason, we give them greater worship than we do Jesus himself. There will be people who will cry and freak out at seeing a celebrity and are bored reading their Bibles, right? So I think the Lord does this at times where he challenges that stuff, right? So this is no different. But I want to show you, so you're getting the idea, right? They're developing this narrative. In this particular interview, Blake Lively is just rude. Her and Parker Posey, who's the other actress, they're just rude to this lady because they can be. And this is what I mean. We always see people at their best, their most makeup, all of it. And it's we don't even know who you really are, right? So now Blake Lively is just being exposed. But there's one verse one story in the Bible I want to show you in just a second. All right. So let's go a few more seconds watching this. And then we're going to watch you the interview where Blake Lively actually just snitched on herself, right? This is coming back to haunt her, and this will connect to the actual biblical passage I want to look at, all right? Let's watch this for a couple more seconds.
I would.
I love Jesse's suits and how
That's what I'm saying. His wardrobe.
Blake wasn't joking. She wasn't being playful. She was mean. The dismissive tone, the smug expression, the refusal to make eye contact. It was all right there, captured on camera. And she wasn't alone. Co-star Parker Posey sat beside her, laughing along, feeding into the toxic high school bully energy. What should have been a professional, harmless interview turned into a public takedown, with Kirsty on the receiving end of Blake's sharp-edged cruelty.
I was just feeling, let this be over as soon as possible so I can just leave this room, because it was so uncomfortable. As you can see from my face when you watch it, I was just sitting there, and then it was kind of like, it was kind of an out-of-body experience because I couldn't really grasp what was happening.
For years, Kirsty kept the footage private. She admitted that she never spoke out earlier because she feared retaliation. Blake Lively wasn't just a Hollywood actress. She was protected, powerful, and dangerously well-connected.
All right, protected, powerful, and dangerously well-connected. Well, Blake Lively right now is not looking that way. All right. And so here is an interview that she did with Forbes magazine in 2022. I think it was called the Power Women Summit or something like that. Now, keep in mind, if you don't know this, in the lawsuit that Justin Baldoni fired back with, Blake Lively was making about harassment. He was trying to watch her while she wasn't appropriately dressed and all this. She played the typical trope that would get people to be like, how dare he, right? You just sort of the hashtag believe all women, that type of stuff, right? But this dude came back with like basically she changed the script. She ended up getting a producers actors guild credit for it. Like basically like she was the one who did the movie. She had the dude's name taken off the poster. And at the premiere, the dude wasn't even allowed to go to his own movie premiere that he directed and bought the rights to the book. And then when he did go, they made him leave when she came to the premiere, right? So she just took over the joint. But now this new Forbes, well, it's not new, it's a Forbes interview has come up and exposed it. And after we watch this about a minute and a half, I'm going to take you to this passage in the Bible to tell you this is how the Lord works, all right? So let's go to this right here, and this is just a short video. We'll watch this.
Blake Lively admitted to Forbes she needed authorship on her films. In an interview from the 2022 Forbes Power Women Summit, Lively admits that simply taking direction as an actress isn't, quote, fulfilling for her, and she needs to have input on costume design, writing, and other pieces of a project.
Show up on a set, I knew that they just wanted me to show up and look cute and stand on a little pink sticker where I'm supposed to go and say what I'm supposed to say. But I also knew that like that wasn't fulfilling for me, that I wanted to be a part of the storytelling, that I wanted to be a part of the narrative, whether that be in the writing, in the costume design, in creating the character. And sometimes I had directors or producers or writers who would welcome that and invite that once they saw that I was able to offer that. And sometimes I would have people who really resented that because they were like, we just hired you to be an actor. Yet when I went in the meetings, I would just seem like I'm just there to be the actor and ready to get the gig. I wouldn't reveal that I actually need to have authorship in order to feel fulfilled. So I think that for them, sometimes that might have felt like a rug pull because you're like, you're trying to assert yourself into something that we didn't hire you to do. And so it was a really strange position to be in because I felt like I don't want to just like be an actor. Like I want to have more authorship. So I think that it's about knowing what I want and what I need and representing that from the outset. And if people are into that and want to collaborate with me for all I feel like I need to offer and bring to a job, then those are the people I should collaborate with. And if I see that it's people who are, whether this is in business or acting or whatever it is, where it's people who I can see that feels like that's stepping on their territory, that's not going to ultimately be a fulfilling relationship for either one of us.
The interview took place before she signed on to It Ends With Us in 2023. Read more at Forbes.com.
Okay. So that interview right there is what in the streets we would call dry snitching, when you snitch on yourself. Listen, this thing is a dumpster fire But let me give you a perspective biblically. If you're a believer, let me give you a perspective biblically that, because people are calling it karma. We don't believe in karma. We do believe that a man reaps what he sows. That's Galatians 6:7, right? Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. But let me give you a narrative. I want to show you something from Kings, 1 Kings 11. All right. Let me give you some backdrop. So in this particular scene, Solomon, who's the king of Israel, sins against the Lord, and the Lord brings judgment. So Solomon is king over the 12 tribes, and this is when the kingdom is severed, where there are 10 tribes in the northern kingdom and then 2 tribes in the southern kingdom. And this is all because of Solomon's sin that's detailed in 1 Kings 11. But listen to how God describes what he does to bring judgment against Solomon. And then you'll see exactly, this is what I think is happening to Blake Lively, particularly by the interview that she just did that we just watched. All right, let's read this together and listen to this perspective biblically. Again, this isn't a one-to-one. What I do is, as a believer, I'm always I believe God's sovereign over everything, the saved and the unsaved. And he works. The stuff that he commands happens whether you believe in him or not. Listen to this narrative, all right? We're going to start at verse 9. Here we go. And the Lord was angry with Solomon because his heart turned away from the Lord, the God of Israel, who appeared to him twice and had commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after other gods. But he did not keep what the Lord commanded. Therefore, the Lord said to Solomon, since this has been your practice and you have not kept my covenant and my statutes that I've commanded you, I will surely tear the kingdom from you and will give it to your servant. Yet for the sake of David your father, I will not do it in your days, but I will tear it out of your son. However, I will not tear away all the kingdom, but I will give one tribe to your son for the sake of David and for the sake of David my servant, for the sake of Jerusalem that I've chosen. And the Lord raised up listen to this. This is the part I want you to get. Pay close attention to these next 6 verses, all right? It's 1 Kings 11, beginning of verse 14. Pay close attention. So God says he's going to take the kingdom from Solomon because of his sin of worshiping other gods, leading Israel to worship other gods. But listen to how God does it. And this is what's happening with Blake Lively. Watch this. This is how the Lord works. You want to know how the Lord works? This is one of the ways he works, all right? Verse 14. Listen to this. And the Lord raised up an adversary against Solomon, Hadad the Edomite. He was of the royal house in Edom. For when David was in Edom and Joab, the commander of the army, went up to bury the slain, he struck down every male in Edom. For Joab and all Israel remained there 6 months until he had cut off every male in Edom. But Hadad fled to Egypt together with certain Edomites of his father's servants. Hadad still being a little child. They set out from Midian and came to Paran and took men with them from Paran and came to Egypt, to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, who gave him a house and assigned him an allowance of food and gave him land. And Hadad found great favor in the sight of Pharaoh, so that he gave him in marriage the sister of his own wife, the sister of Tahpenes, the queen. And the sister of Tahpenes bore him Genubath, his son, whom Tahpenes weaned in Pharaoh's house. And Genubath was in Pharaoh's house among the sons of Pharaoh. But when Hadad heard in Egypt that David slept with his fathers and that Joab, the commander of the army, was dead, right? Hadad sent to Pharaoh, let me depart that I may go to my own country. But Pharaoh said to him, what have you lacked it with me that you are now seeking to go to your own country? And he said, only let me depart, right? So let me tell you what's happening here. Let me get 3 more verses. God also raised up an adversary to him, Rezin, the son of Eliada, who had fled from his master. Hadaezer, king of Zobah, and he gathered men about him and became the leader of a marauding band after the killing by David. And they went to Damascus and lived there and made him king in Damascus. He was an adversary of Israel all the days of Solomon, doing harm as Hadad did. And he loathed Israel and reigned over Syria. All right, let me make sure you understand what's happening here, all right? This is how the Lord works. Let's go back to this right here. This is what's happening to Blake Lively. Blake Lively's own interview, that Forbes interview, is what happened. Listen to what it says. It says this, the Lord raised up an adversary against Solomon, Hadad the Edomite. He was of the royal house in Edom, right? So here's what happens. David and Joab, his general, go out to try to kill all the Edomites. They kill almost every Edomite. In fact, they thought they wiped out all of the Edomites, right? But Hadad, who was a little boy, escaped with a small group of other Edomites. They go to Pharaoh's house. Pharaoh gives them asylum. He grows up in Pharaoh's house. Pharaoh bangs with him, right? Gives him the wife of his sister, and then he gets married. And then as he gets older, he finds out that David and Joab are dead. He says, hey, let me go. Let me go back to my own country. And he comes back, and that's how the Lord uses Hadad to destroy, to really help punish Solomon for his sin and split the kingdom. So God takes a man whom they thought the Edomites were wiped out. The Edomites were gone. God preserves this little boy's life only to come back and use him later to be the thorn in the flesh of Solomon as he goes after Israel. He hates Israel because Solomon's dad, David, destroyed all of the males in Edom except for Hadad and whoever else servants fled with him. This is how the Lord works. The Lord takes a circumstance that you think is over and done with out of the way, and then brings it back years later and uses that same thing that you thought meant nothing to actually be the means in which punishes you for something that you've done, right? This is what happened with Blake Lively. When Blake Lively, she has been corrupt, sinning against, and here's the reality. She can get away with it because she's pretty, she's beautiful. And let me just say this real quick. All this talk about, I've watched Ben Shapiro, all these people say, well, her career recovered from this. 100%. Because you know who people are the most forgiving to? People who entertain them. People are the most forgiving to people who entertain them. Most forgiving. I know black people that still play R. Kelly songs at their wedding receptions. They don't care because they like the music. I ain't saying one way or the other you should or shouldn't. I'm just saying we are more forgiving to celebrities than we are to other believers. It's terrible. So will Blake Lively's career recover? I bet. She's still married to Ryan Reynolds. Let 2 years go by. She drops another movie. She's beautiful and everyone's going to forget because, one, because of lust, most people, and two, because they get grace. The beautiful people get the grace that the rest of us don't get. We don't even give grace to each other, right? Back to what I was saying before I just said that. The thing is, the Lord used an interview that she did a couple years ago, to be the Hadad the Edomite. She taught that and thought, oh, people were going to be so empowered by her saying, I'm a woman who wants to show up and do this, this, and this. And then that same interview is now evidence against her in a $400 million lawsuit because she basically did everything she said in that clip. She did that to this movie, It Ends With Us. This dude already has receipts through text message and stuff, but he doesn't even need them. All he has to do is say, this is what she said she does in a Forbes interview 3 years ago, and this is what she did. Exactly what she said she did. She's going to be guilty. She'll recover because Ryan Reynolds is her husband, and people love Ryan Reynolds. You're not going to stop watching Deadpool. You're not going to do that. We're over the cancel culture. That was a vibe. That was a hashtag Me Too. That was a vibe. People love celebrities. They entertain us. Listen, we are all distraught by what's happening politically, so we'll look for anything to entertain us. And Blake Lively, I think, will be back. But what's interesting, what I think is, what the Lord did was, he made that interview in Forbes be Hadad the Edomite. Thought it was gone, didn't even think it would even matter. She probably forgot she said those words in an interview on Forbes. And that joint is now coming back and is gone viral, showing you who these people really are. So if you're a believer, watch whatever movies you want, support whatever you want, but don't give people the grace that you don't give to other believers. Don't give non-believing entertainers the grace and the forgiveness and the worship that you don't even give to the Lord. You got people that'll binge watch these shows and don't spend 30 minutes in reading or praying to the Lord. Like, man, listen, I think the Lord is exposing this stuff so that we can be like, you know what? Yeah, she's not who I thought he was. He's not who I thought he was. Yeah, you know what? Let me just chill out. I can't trust these people. I love that Trump made Paula White his religious advisor, the face of Christianity. I love it because God is exposing that this man has no idea what biblical Christianity is, and you have all these conservatives who are fawning. Oh, listen, if you're a card carrying whatever, vote what you vote. No one cares. But don't try to tell the rest of us that he's a man of God, sent from God to bring about. Man, get out of here. Let me just say this. Let me make a few people upset, and I'm not trying to, but let me just speak theological realities. If you do not think that God is sovereign over every institution in the world, even if you disagree with it, even if people are allowed to unalive the life forms that are within them, and they call it a woman's right to choose. If you think that God is somehow not sovereign over that, right? That he needs a corrupt politician or man masking himself as a believer, convincing other Christians who are supposed to know sound doctrine to say he's a believer, you don't even got to do that. Just say, I voted for him. You voted for him, and it is what it is. But this is the world we live in. When I was younger, I used to be like, how in the world will the Antichrist, how will he fool all these people? There's no way. People are going to be like, that dude's an Antichrist. There's no way. But now I'm convinced because I watch all these believers just fall victim to the wildest stuff. And it's like, wow. And I'm not saying it self-righteously because I'm not exempt. I've done dumb stuff and I could fall victim to things too. But by the grace of God, I'm waiting on Jesus. But anyway, it ends with us. The lawsuit, it will not end, but it will not end her career for sure. But it will damage it. But if Blake Lively lays low for a while, you already got worth hundreds of millions. Let your husband do what he does. Lay low. Come out in 3 years in a different kind of movie where people will forget and they'll move on. That's the way we live. That's the common grace in America. But believer, pay attention. Be sharp, for our Lord is watching. Thanks for watching. See you.